I'd like to call to order the school committee meeting for November. The first order of business is to move for a motion to convene into executive session. What? It's okay. I'm used to talking to myself. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to move into executive session for approval of executive minutes for October 4th, 2022 pursuant to RIGL 42465A2 for reviewing and or approving matters which relate to the privacy of students, RIGL 42465A8 for the review of school safety plans, for the presentation on ALICE training, the request to bargain on behalf of Situate Educational Support Personnel for the town of Situate and Teamsters 251 petition for investigation of controversies as to representation regarding the MOU with, I'm sorry? The MOU with Situate Educational Support Personnel for the groundskeeper's position for the report on collective bargaining with the Situate Teachers Association pursuant to RIGL 42465A2 regarding the matter of Clyde versus Andre Kennedy and Prisbila pursuant to RIGL 42465A2 for a report on Cato Field pursuant to RIGL 42465A2 and for investigative proceedings regarding allegations of misconduct, civil pursuant to RIGL 42465A4.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to ask that we pass on the executive session. As you know, Mr. Finnegan has. Sorry. I'm going to ask that we pass on the executive session minutes. As we know, Mr. Finnegan has complained that the entry for the agenda for executive session minutes does not list all the subsections and topics. I had a very lengthy conversation with Adam Roach in the Attorney General's office. He called what Mr. Finnegan is doing, he called it the Russian doll problem, because of course the minutes that you're approving tonight include the minutes for the previous meeting, which include the minutes for the previous meeting. And the question becomes, you would have an agenda that goes on and on and on and on, like a set of Russian dolls. What the Attorney General and I discussed was that we will list the subsections of the Open Meetings Act, but we're not going to list every single topic on the issue of approval of minutes. So I'd ask that that piece of it be tabled for now, and we'll take it up at the next meeting.
So for clarification, you're stating that the Attorney General's office advised that we don't put the matter that we're approving. We rather just put the subsection.
Correct, because otherwise what would happen is that the agenda would become page after page, because the minutes here approve the minutes of the last meeting. And one of the items approved at the last meeting were the minutes of the prior meeting. And we would have to then list, if we list the topics, we're going to list topic after topic after topic. And that is essentially that is misleading to the public. And as Mr. Roach said, you have to balance technicality and practicality. And the solution that he and I came up with after a lengthy discussion is a practical solution. That's not to say that Mr. Finnegan will not file another complaint, but on the other hand, it has been discussed at length with the Attorney General.
And the Attorney General, just for clarification, the Attorney General is stating that we have a more vague agenda item for approval, less specific.
That we have an item that includes the subsections of the Open Meetings Act, but that what we put in parentheses afterwards, that we don't have to list that, because if we had to list that for this meeting, we list it for this meeting, but we approve the minutes of last meeting. And
Gotcha.
one of the items in last meeting is to approve the minutes of the meeting before. And this would go on, like I said, his words were a set of Russian dolls.
Okay.
Can I just ask you a question, John, before I
Sure.
ask for a second on this motion? From what I understand, the concern came with the last item on the agenda.
Which is the approval of the minutes.
No, which is the investigative proceeding regarding allegations of misconduct.
I'm satisfied with the description with regard to that.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. And he can file and I'll deal with it.
So I'd like to make a motion.
If I,
I may
be-
amend
bef-
my motion.
before the amendment, Colleen, John, could I just, so going forward, you would just have approve executive session minutes for the date and then in the
accept-
brackets, the general law, that's all you would need?
That's what he suggested that I do after our conversation. We literally went back and forth and tried to brainstorm a solution because he understands it would go on forever and that is not helpful to the public either.
Right, exactly.
He also is, by the way, very familiar with Mr. Finnegan.
All right, no, I just wanted to know exactly what we need to
Sure.
have. That's all. Thank you. Sorry, Colleen.
So I would simply ask Colleen that you withdraw that one item of your motion.
So I'd like to amend my motion without saying the whole thing over, with removing the approval
Mhm.
of executive session minutes for October 1st, 2022.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's what I'm waiting for. Is she here?
Before we open our meeting, I'd like to make mention that the exits are to the rear and the side of the stage.
Okay, I'd like to call our November meeting to order. The first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prior to open session, we had a lengthy, and I'm sorry, we ran a little bit over on our executive session. And we took, I think we took one vote regarding we took on home requests. Did we take two, Patty? Just the one, right?
Nope, we did, I believe we did the review and vote of the school safety plans.
Oh, yes, and we moved forward with the, and took a vote and approved the school safety plans. And we took a vote on the Teamsters. It's been so long since we talked about all these things. Other than that, everything else was just an update. And the executive session minutes was tabled, and those minutes will be put back on the agenda next month. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Are there any discussions?
May I?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
I have on the general fund, the 3B2C document. Math Learning Center in the amount of $10,985. And the 3B2D document, the Camp Ruggles expense for $11,510.
You just want to know more about it?
A little bit more, please. Yeah.
Okay, I can gather that information, see what it was specifically used for, where it was for, and come back to you at the next meeting if you'd like with that information.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. The next agenda item is the recognition of Situate School Teacher of the Year. Is Maggie Stormont here? Come on up, Maggie. I think I've seen you before. First, again, congratulations. And I had an opportunity to hear about why you were nominated. And I was just so overwhelmed and so grateful that we have you here in our district. So I want to thank you again. And tonight we're going to officially present you from the school committee a plaque for you for Situate Teacher of the Year 2022-23 by our Situate Public Schools and the Situate Teachers Association. So again, I want to thank you. And I think that you also, you are an amazing educator, but I know you're not the only one. And I know that there's many of you that are here right now and in our buildings every day that really dedicate so much to our children. And on behalf of the school committee, I just want to say thank you so much. And there's some flowers here to go with the plaque. And I didn't know if you want to make any comments to our school committee. Thank you.
Here. Thank you. Can you hear? Oh, this is weird to have you at my back. So I do want to say thank you for this honor. It matters a lot. You said you're grateful to have me. I am so grateful to teach in Scituate. We have this fantastic little community and just the best kids. We had a pep rally. Was it 2 weeks ago? It feels like a year ago, but there were a few minutes left over at the end of the pep rally, and that would normally be kind of like a frightening time for a high school of 400 kids. And what are we going to do now? And someone put on Cotton Eye Joe, and everybody got up and danced. And then when they were told to have a seat, everybody had a seat. Like, we have just these fantastic kids, and I'm so fortunate to get to work with them every day, and they bring me so much joy. So I want to say thank you for this honor, and I want to recognize our Scituate teachers, who are really just an amazing group of very talented, very dedicated people. And they're not all here tonight because life, but I want to make sure that everyone in this room understands how amazing our teachers are. Our Scituate teachers bring us decades of experience, of expertise, of skill, of continued learning, of refined practice, of understanding children and teenagers, which are very different. Creative thinking, critical thinking, love, and sheer endurance to this job every day. Unfortunately, this is a weird time to get an award for teaching because I am very upset with how teachers are being treated right now. To help explain why, here's a joke from one of my favorite comedians, Jim Gaffigan. He has 5 children now. And when he had 4 and had a baby, he was explaining what it was like to have that 5th child when you already had 4. And he said, to paraphrase, it's like you're drowning and then someone hands you a baby. And for the past 2 years, that's how teaching has felt for me. I'm drowning and people keep handing me babies. Instead of offering teachers support, communities are focusing on cutting funding, undermining teachers' decision-making, not asking for teacher input on educational decisions, or asking for teacher input and then ignoring it. Increasing teacher workload, expecting teachers to just take care of it outside of work hours, telling teachers to practice self-care without mitigating a single stressor in the workplace, refusing to enact policies that would benefit teacher health, and deciding to blame many of our culture's problems on the very teachers we've also asked to physically defend our children in the event of a school shooting. So it feels strange to accept an award that says good job when on a lot of days, teacher work is undervalued and undersupported. I'd like to challenge each person here to think carefully about the teachers in your life and examine your actions. I challenge you to take action to support the teachers in your life. Respect must be tangible for it to actually be respect. If we are going to continue to provide the best education possible for our children, we need your help. We need your respect, your willingness to listen and make decisions based on the expertise we're offering you. And we need your support for us to be more than lip service. We are in contract negotiations right now, and the decisions that are made during those negotiations will show us whether this community respects and supports teachers. So thank you for this award. Thank you for giving me a minute to tell you about what's important to me. Teaching is important to me. Our Scituate kids are important to me. Once they're my kid, they're always my kid. I love them. I love my colleagues. I love being here, but we have a lot of work to do. And I really hope we can do it together. Thank you.
So I guess I'll just talk from here because I'm down here. But I heard you. I feel like I don't know at what point the feeling started that you weren't important, because I know that everybody on this committee values educators. I don't know if it's starting when the layers start coming down, because when I hear this, I'm like, wow, you're so important. We try to impress upon you how important you are. You are the most important thing in our district that's going to help our kids. You're the closest ones to them. But I don't understand how we could feel this way. Oh, we love you and we value you. And then we're losing it by the time it gets to your classroom. And that needs to be looked at. And so we are working. I think we're getting closer on the contractual issues. I'm hoping we can hopefully finalize it maybe one or two more times. But I think we're making progress, and the mediator, I think, is bringing some calm and trying to get us just to kind of focus. But I heard you, Maggie, and we're going to try to see what we can do to understand that a little bit better. I don't want to speak for the committee, but I do know that we do value you. I mean, I'm blown away by educators every day. Always been a priority, tried to make it a priority since I got here, and I know that everyone else feels that way as well. So, but again, congratulations. Thank you for the feedback, and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Are they here tonight?
They are.
Okay, come on down.
So the next item on the agenda is the recognition of Colleen McCann and Lindsay Stevens. And I would just like to say that this past week in North Situate, there was a medical emergency that Colleen prepares her staff for every single year, but has never quite had to invoke those emergency procedures before last week. And as it was described to me, the actions of Lindsay Stevens and Colleen McCann literally saved this little girl's life. She's an undiagnosed allergy to bee stings, and everybody did exactly what they needed to do in record time. And Colleen rode in the ambulance with this little girl so she would not be alone. I know it brought great comfort to the family and to that little girl. And I could not be prouder of the work that they did and the support that they gave that little girl and that family. Truly remarkable. So thank you for what you did for that little girl and for that family. And it does, in fact, epitomize the great work that teachers here in Situate do every single day. So thank you.
So I just want to say, you know, Maggie, when the kids were doing the rock and roll dancing after your assembly there, it's because of these heroes and the heroes out there. It's not because of any single person sitting up there. It's because of you guys. So again, we have more heroes here. do you think that might be penetrating through the school community into all those children and parents about what you've done? That changes the culture. You do. And I so appreciate that. And congratulations on a job well done. And we're just again so privileged to have you here. So, and Caitlin, I know.
Additionally, we'd like to recognize Caitlin as the leader of that building who supported everybody during that process and continues to be there every day to support her teachers, staff, and students. Job well done, Caitlin. This was an extraordinary event, but little events like this happen every single day in our schools. And we really need to do a better job of celebrating them and the people surrounding them. So we do have cake for the Teacher of the Year. And since we have some other celebrities in the room amongst your teaching staff, I will get the cake down there and get it ready so people can have some.
Okay, so I guess we're going to take a 5-minute pause. Okay.
Yes.
That would be interested in coming up for a Teacher of the Year cupcake, and our heroes at North Situate Elementary cupcake, come on down.
We should let Maggie look at it first.
I want to see it.
The napkins are following. Maggie, do you want a plate and a napkin?
You're a star.
No, thank you. Wow. This is the whole no cupcake section. Wow. I know.
So now I want one. Now I'm.
See?
They're gonna sit in my face. I might as well have. Right?
I know.
I like this cupcake
It's
so
not a
much.
Smart idea.
Did you
Mother
mother
advised,
is
smart.
Yes.
Mother advised.
Do it that way.
I don't have to cut.
Well, the Leo's birthday.
Oh, no, we do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I don't think they made these.
That's fine. I don't get like fancy photos.
I'm all set.
That's fun. Oh, I like it. Yeah.
Oh.
Is that from? Parents on staring.
What's that?
How to eat a cupcake? That's. Oh, did you put it in? Yeah, I do that all the time.
I know how to eat cookies.
No, thanks, honey. I'm good. I don't want to start choking. I won't be able to talk. Okay, so hopefully we can continue the meeting while you eat. I do need to wait for Lori to talk a little bit about this next agenda item. Lori, the next agenda item is the field trip to Spain. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you need from us and?
Yes, the principal is here.
No, Leslie.
Oh, sorry, Leslie. She is here to answer any questions. The application is in your packet. Per your school committee policy, it has to come to this level to be approved.
Okay.
So this
Is
is
her
your
T-shirt any
opportunity.
indication about what they're going to be doing in Spain?
Well, this is one of the field trips we went. The students actually were able to walk the whole path where the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain was. So this is
Okay.
kind of symbolic of
Is that,
what they
is
might
that,
do.
is that real blood on there?
No, no, no.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the field trip to Spain?
I'll make a motion to approve the field trip to Spain with all the details that we've been given.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
I just wanted to, if Senor would just tell us the time, we saw all the information. How many kids do you have going? Tell us it's exciting to be going again, to be like. past
Yeah,
pan-
so
right?
the last trip we were supposed to go on was during COVID and that got canceled. And the students were asking me to, since last year,
Yeah.
run another one, run another one, run another one. I was like, oh, I don't know. And then we were talking about doing it in the summer like we normally do. And they were like, oh, we're going to HOSA. I was like, oh, okay, April vacation. And so I've got 12 people who are committed to, as soon as you say yes, they're signing up tomorrow.
Nice.
So there's 12 students, 11 students from the school and one parent so far, but that I believe is going to grow.
So why do you need 5 school committee members as chaperones?
Oh, you don't even, the chaperone list is like, do
No, it's-
habla español?
It's no, yeah, yeah. That's it.
Oh,
The only
darn it.
thing I know is vamonos.
Can't go,
But
can't go.
It's just exciting to hear something almost resembling some form of normalcy again. I know we're not there yet, but
Yeah.
it's nice to see this and exciting for the kids and thank you for pulling that together.
Yeah, I do have a question and I'm going to be the negative person. But I need to ask because there is state legislation regarding field trips. And John, I need your opinion on this because I know that the students are expected to fundraise for the trip. And I believe that legislation speaks against that option. I could be wrong. And if the school sanctions the trip, does that mean this trip falls under that legislation?
If the school committee sanctions the trip does fall under the legislation. But the legislation does not preclude fundraising. What the legislation precludes, and I'll simplify it, is for somebody being left behind because they couldn't afford it. And I am sure that as part of the process of organizing the trip, that if there is anybody that there's an issue, that ways will be figured out. That's easy for me to say, but
Yeah.
that is something that the legislation does require us to do, but it does not prevent us from doing fundraising.
So what forms of fundraising would be available to a student who is unable to come up with, I think the trip, it's in the ballpark of 3,600.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they usually say they do family donations and then individual fundraising on their own. So there's a lot of fundraising platforms that students can put out there for like GoFundMe if they wanted to, where people who just have money to help other people out to go have an experience like this could help them. But that would be about the avenue that they would take.
I did read about a scholarship opportunity in the information that you sent us as well.
Yeah, those are with the EF Tour company themselves. There's different kinds of possible, they could get college credits or high school credits or scholarships, but all of that is held through EF. And since they're an accredited educational institution, just like high schools are, I don't handle that part and I am not well versed in those things with that company, but I would refer parents to seek them out. And I have already had one parent ask me about that for their child to do some extra work and what would it entail?
Yeah.
And I led them in that direction. I was like, I am not well versed to speak on their behalf, but they offer that for you to contact them. And they're very, they're, like I said, they're an accredited institution.
And it's perfect because it's right before the holidays, so maybe this can be part of students' holiday gifts.
Yes, exactly. So like
7 years.
Oh, well, yeah, it's,
My kid wants to go.
for the next, yeah, for the next 7 years.
I am, oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's always my concern, on any kind of field trip is the kids, the have-nots, if you will.
Right.
You know, the kids for whom these are great educational experiences, no doubt about it. But it really, you know, I find it hard to know that maybe a kid would be excluded because of financial ability. And we are a public school and our goal is to be inclusive. And that is given a nod in our mission statement. So I just would hope that everything would be done to support a student who would like to go on the trip, but for whom the trip is a financial strain on
Yeah.
the family.
I haven't had any of the students come forward and state anything like that. I do know that in the past, when we have run some trips, that parents have contacted
Mhm.
the administration in the building
Mhm.
and spoken to them in that aspect. But I wouldn't handle those
Right.
kinds of funds, but I know that those have been done in the past.
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Have fun. The next agenda item is the approval for the field trip to Mystic. I don't know if there's someone here to talk about it, or is it just you? Okay. Come on, Caitlin.
If you have any questions, it is in your packet. It's an annual field trip. But again, because of the way your policy is worded, it has to come.
It's all out of state. field
Yes.
trips, correct, yeah.
And the policy committee may look at that
Yeah.
at some point in time. But
Yeah,
right now, the
definitely.
policy requires it to come.
Because there's a little difference between a, you know.
Spain and
kiss
Mystic.
Spain and Mystic.
Rendezvous to.
But Caitlin's here.
Yeah,
if you
no,
have
I-
questions.
Can I just make a motion and then we can go ask Caitlin
Yeah.
if we have questions and make a motion to approve the field trip to
If you
Mystic?
want, sure. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay. Go ahead.
Any discussions?
Nope. Do you need me to share anything or?
I
read
have
the
no
packet.
questions. I'm
Okay.
ready to go.
Perfect.
Right.
So are they. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Yep, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, superintendent's report.
So I only have a couple of items on my report this evening. I'd like to first talk to the committee about Rhode Island has a requirement that the district hire and have on staff a truancy officer. As it's been explained to me, Situate in the past has always had their truancy petitions filed through the Situate Police Department. The chief reached out to me because that system requires that the charges be filed against the parent and they be criminal charges. That is why all districts have a truancy officer on staff who will file a truancy petition at family court, and then it is not a criminal charge against the parent. The Situate Police Department has determined that they feel like they are no longer going to file those truancy petitions on behalf of the school department because they feel like it's too harsh of a process for families, and that we need to hire a truancy officer or have that position filled so that we can file truancy petitions the way most districts do, which is through family court. Maureen and I have had a couple of conversations about this particular position, and we plan to have additional conversations to try to determine the best way to fill that requirement around the regulation and have a truancy officer, some person within the district that will be responsible for working with the guidance department and filing that truancy paperwork at family court, should it be necessary.
How many incidents are we talking about?
We don't have a lot of, I don't have
And why
those.
wouldn't this fall under the purview of the dean of students?
So those are the conversations that
Okay.
Maureen and I are having.
All right, why don't
I'm
you?
just putting it on your radar.
Okay,
So that you,
all right,
you know,
duly noted.
to be transparent.
It's 10% of the school year, so if it's 160 days.
180. If it's,
16.
yeah, it's 180 days
That
once
includes
Right.
tardy and absent.
and
So
and
it
leaving
can-
early.
it can raise
Right.
up to a lot.
But honestly, we don't have huge numbers here in Situate of
that's fine.
truant, but we
Okay.
do need to have a mechanism and a system to deal with these issues so that it's equitable.
Okay.
And
Do we know what like districts do?
typically they have a truant, and it's a part-time position. In the places I've been, a lot of times it's the athletic director / AD. It depends on the system, how they connect that, because it's not a full-time job. It is a piece of a job. There are some responsibilities, but that's why I think Maureen and I will try to have some conversations and figure out where it fits and what is a good solution for Situate, and then bring something forward collaboratively to present to the
In,
committee.
in the meantime, again, I'm not hoping for rampant truancy.
Yeah, me neither.
So the police department is not doing it now.
No, so we need to have a solution
Mhm. But if
fairly
we,
quickly.
or there needs to be somebody, if we have an obligation to do this, someone would have to step in, obviously, to make sure that that happens.
Yeah, we honestly need to have a solution before we get to that point. We're early in the school year.
Sure.
So, now is the time for us to find the solution and to know how we're going to move forward.
Is there training involved?
There is, and the police department has offered to make sure that we can get our person trained through the process of the family court and filing the paperwork. So yes. And Maureen and I talked about, apparently at some point in time, Situate had a truancy court within the building. You had the magistrate come. Yeah, see the heads
Yeah.
are going. The magistrate would come.
Yeah.
That's what we did in Coventry. That's what we did in Charahoe. I don't know that we have enough kids at this point that are truant to get approval for that to happen here. But we may be able to join on and collaborate with a neighboring
Right.
district like Pano.
Right. They used to have a troop. Yeah.
I think Pano does it in district, so
Yes.
maybe we could work out an agreement where we would go on the same day to Ponagansett for 2 hours in the afternoon, and they'd hear our cases. So we have some options, rather than asking families to drive to family court. And I don't know where the family court in this area is. In Coventry, we went, is it Providence here? Yeah,
Providence, Rhode Island.
at least in Coventry, we went to Warwick, so it was kind
I
of.
will say I was involved in the truancy program. I ran it for like 10 years. Initially, we started off at Ponagansett High School and we commuted students over there. And then we ended up having enough students to have it here. However, the problem we were having was most of the students we were sending were doing very well in school. And so they really didn't see it as a big issue for the family court that's dealing with the city of Providence, Cranston. So our program kind of faded away.
Yeah, I understand that
Magistrates
completely.
are,
Yeah, they don't want to deal with
Nah,
kids
okay.
that are doing well.
So just let us, keep
So I'll
us
keep you updated.
updated on that.
The other thing that the chief and I talked about and is in my report tonight is around body cams. The state has a program where they are providing body cams to all of the police stations and the officers. the chief's conversation with me was around the SRO. And what did we think about equipping the SRO with a body cam? The chief and I are both in agreement that that is not a good idea, that should not happen, that the SRO should not be wearing a body cam in the school. So I'm bringing that again to the committee's attention because that is our agreement. However, if there is a duty officer assigned here for a game, for a large crowd or whatever, they would be wearing body cams. So I'm informing the committee that that's the conversation that we've had. That's the agreement that we have come to, that the SRO will not wear the body cam, but certainly duty officers, because they would be regular officers here on campus, would in fact be wearing body cams.
So even if they were working so obviously if there was a police response to the school, the cameras would be on.
They'd be on.
If they're working a detail, for a basketball game, for a football game, their cameras are gonna be on.
Right. Right.
The cameras are not on all the time. The cameras are activated when you need to have them, have the response going for some type of an emergency. So you have control over the front of the camera to shut it on or shut it off.
Thank
So-
God you're on here, Kevin, because I do not know the intricate workings of those cameras. So that is great.
It's quite his night. I ran truancy court.
Wow. Okay. I
All
want to
right.
be there after this meeting.
That's my
But that's
report.
okay.
Anything else? Does anybody have anything for me?
No, I do want to, for the December meeting, there's two things that I would like to have, prepared. And I know we're coming up to a busy season right now with the 15-month budget in front of us, but, I would like each principal to come and unpack their scores, that it will be, I guess, announced in the next couple of weeks. And in addition to that, I would like to understand in each school by that principal, what their ESSER plans are, what is the remediation plan and how they plan to use those resources over the next 18 months. And what kind of urgency is behind that? I know that we've tried to engage parents over the summer that really needed to have those children come and get additional help. And I think we got 7. So what are the ideas? So like, what are we doing? And so I'd like to have that put on the agenda for the next school committee meeting.
Duly noted.
I'd also like updates on changes of administration. I was at the high school today as a parent, and I met the new assistant principal at the school.
If you could come and lead the committee.
That's the
that'd be great.
first I knew that we had a new assistant principal at the school. So I think it's important that the committee's kept apprised. We knew that they were advertising. We know we've been out with an assistant principal for a couple months now. And I'm thrilled to have somebody there. I'm not saying this person has to be here I just think it's important that before someone's starting in the district, that we actually know that they're coming and
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? The next agenda item is the Director of Administration and Finance report.
Just wanted to give an update on the audit. I did meet with the auditor today as well as the town, and we're working hand in hand to continually provide just the regularly required documentation to complete the audit. We're nearing the end. With the conclusion of the audit, I will be providing a budget to actual for FY 21-22 and beginning the 15-month budgeting process for next year. I have already begun reaching out to principals, the athletic director, facilities director, tech director to discuss their needs, their budgetary requests, how I'd like to see them, and kind of what that process will look like so that I can be inclusive of all needs when building the budget. but we are in a good place with the audit and I'm feeling excited to get working on the 15-month budget.
So again, the 15-month budget. So if I'm a principal and I'm doing my budget, am I preparing a 15th? Am I preparing a 12 and you're kind of turning it into a 15? How does that?
So I'm really working closely this time with,
Yeah.
because it's my first one with the principals and I really want to, we're setting up meetings now. We're talking about how I want the Excel sheet of their requests. Then we're going to talk about the requests. We'll talk about the process. We'll talk about how we're going to get in the system. I'm really going to try to be with them the whole step of the way so that we can get a nice process and procedure to move forward with.
So very simplistically, and I know there's nothing simplistic about this. I say that with all the due respect. I visualize our budgets are always down on a year-to-year basis. I know this is a change and this is a very welcome change, something that needs to happen. So I'm thinking, okay, we take, divide it by 12, throw on an extra. So it's very confusing to think that if you had to actually, so parts of your budget aren't necessarily expended, you spend different things at different parts of the year. So does that have to all be taken into consideration? Do you follow what
So the good part is we have historical data, so we can sort of look at where we are at 3 months to where we are at 6 months to where we are at, in the first month, just so that we can say, is this a realistic request based on the months that, will be
encompassing.
utilized? And if this isn't a realistic request, is there a reason that it's not realistic that, we can, account for that?
So then this is gonna sound silly, then do we then do a 9-month budget?
No, it's a 15-month.
So it's the 15 and then from there,
It's just really, when you think about it, we're taking, every year we stop at the last quarter of our academic year, which is crazy. Like, we know we go almost right to the end of June. So it's just taking the full academic year. So it's taking the last quarter of this year. And then we're just budgeting for a full academic year, which is, it's so much better for us.
yes, and the big,
So I think,
It's a
I think
one-time
it
lift,
sounds
right.
like, oh my God, a 15
Yeah,
month
no.
budget. I don't think it's going to be that hard. I just think we're now going to be planning through the end of the next
It's just a
I
little
know
more,
what you mean.
just a little more
Academic
thinking this time,
year.
Yeah.
but it's going to be great once we're
Yeah,
on the
but
traditional
I
year.
do want to say that it is a change. And I don't want the school department in any way to be the reason why we're not moving the fiscal year. And so that's why I think we need that additional school committee meeting in November
Mhm.
to have a deep dive in the current year and find out what the budget to actuals, where are we as of today, 6 months in? And using that data to, as Stephanie just explained, to really have her come back to us with, and here's the process, and here's how we're going to get there, and here's what we're going, and these are the timelines, and this is when we're taking the budget back to the school committee, and this is when we're going to go to the budget committee, and this is when it's going to go to the town. I mean, we have to be super diligent about how we want to meet these targets. So then we as a school district can make sure that we've done everything we needed to make sure that this goes to fruition to move this fiscal year to July 1. So I think we're gonna, Stephanie's working with Lori and her team. And so you'll be seeing some dates coming your way as to when we can potentially get back together and start having those conversations. Anything else, Stephanie? Okay, so the next item on the agenda is public comment and questions. If you'd like to come up and make a comment or ask a question, we only ask that you state your name and your address. So we're open, so come on up.
And here I am.
Here you are. Lady in red.
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to congratulate Maggie. She's fantastic. Yes, you can clap. That's good. She's fantastic. The kids love her. She does such amazing things, innovative. I mean, I could talk for 3 hours about Maggie Stormont, but I won't. So Carolyn, after you talked to Maggie, you asked why the teachers feel the way they do. And I have to tell you, actions speak louder than words. It's been over a year now since we requested negotiations. And I know you said, well, we're in mediation now, we're making progress. We've made zero progress in the last month, 2 months, 10 months, a year. Yes, we're in mediation, but I feel that our teachers have been more than reasonable. There's been no work action at this time. We continue to go above and beyond, even though we're in this very stressful, unfortunate time. It's alarming to me that the school committee would rather spend unnecessary money from the budget to pay for mediation rather than come to a fair agreement with the teachers. But the reason I wanted to speak tonight is I want parents to know. I heard something today that was very upsetting, actually, about the attitude of the teachers and what's happening in the classroom. And as much as we're disappointed with what's going on with our livelihoods, with what we feel is an unfair situation, we would never express that in our classrooms. We are not taking this out on our children. We continue to perform better. We continue to love and care for those kids. We do not ever say anything negative. Now, have kids asked us about red shirts? Absolutely. And the answer is teachers supporting teachers. It's not, we hate the school committee. It's not any of that. I just have one question that I've never asked before, so I don't even know who could answer that for me. But our attorney fees, we pay a retainer for our attorney for the school department, right? Nobody knows that? That's a real question, not rhetorical.
In the question, are
So
you asking about
I
our
was-
attorney?
Yeah, for the school department.
Yep.
When an attorney is hired, is it a retainer for the year or is it meetings? So
It's not an hourly rate. It's a
So it
contract.
includes, that contract includes all mediation, all negotiations meetings, all of that? It does. Okay. Thank you.
So other than the contract, which I know that you say it's been a year since we've been notified, and I get that. But like this year too, this week, we got a request from another bargaining unit that always comes in around this time in October. But historically, we always start the process in the spring. The last one. So I know it says, we've been at this for over a year, but we've actually started the process typically in the spring.
You're
And
correct.
Do you know what I mean? I think
Yeah, but I don't want to keep
piling.
chomping on this because my feeling is we asked for negotiations on October 22nd. Yes, in the spring is usually where we come together with our first proposals, and we were put aside until the first day of school. So it is very frustrating to be working under these conditions.
Okay,
It's a fact,
I know.
and we need to get this done.
Well, I'm all for that, Maureen, as you know, and we're going to continue to work at it. And I'm hoping that we'll get to some closure like shortly. Thank you.
Maureen, I'm not sure if you heard from Mr. Hassel, but I have reached out to schedule a time to shadow somebody. It's just taking a while to work out the scheduling of that. And
I haven't spoken to them.
so it's a work in progress. I just want you to know that I did reach out to do that.
And I will be doing that too after next week. Okay, is there any other public comment?
If anyone wants to get in line on Zoom, please hit the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen or hit more and then raise hand.
Al Duran, 12 Jackson Flat Road, Hope, Rhode Island. I got a couple of questions on Cato Field. I realize it's in litigation. However, you must know approximately what it's going to cost to restore that field, whether it's 50-50 from the developer or I'm sorry, 50% developer, 50% of the town. You know, as a taxpayer going forward, I'm sure it's going to be a budget item next year. If not a budget item, it'll probably be a bond referendum because it's probably going to be expensive to do that. My question is, what do you think it's going to cost to restore the field so it becomes playable?
Actually, Mr. Duran, I think that that is something that we have no idea yet because we haven't gone through mediation yet. And so the first mediation is going to be November 30th, but that's where all those decisions will be made. And
Yeah,
so
But there's got to be money involved. In other words, you got to, according to your email, you got a crackerjack construction team. I'm sure that they must have looked into what the cost is going to be to fix this field or restore the field to playable conditions. So what is that number? You can't go into mediation without a figure.
but then
How are you going to have a settlement?
there's information, I mean, a lot of information that we're going into mediation with. But unfortunately, that information cannot be discussed, yet because we haven't gone to mediation yet. So as soon as we get there, that's where the information, because you don't want us to put information out as a committee or as a school district or as a town that would hurt our chances when we get to mediation. So we're trying to we don't want another police station issue. We want to make sure that this is done right. And therefore, we're going to make sure that we're moving into this mediation with the best possible chance of a better outcome for our town to ensure that our schools, our taxpayers are not burdened with any more additional dollars. And so we will not be able to provide any information at this time because we do not want to put us at any type of a disadvantage. The more information we put out, the more information the other side gets. And so that's why you're seeing such very careful communications around this. And I know that a lot of people are frustrated, and there's nobody more than our parents and our students that want that field open in this committee. But we have to make sure that we do it in a way that we protect those students and those taxpayers. And that's our number one. And I know it's your priority too.
But my question is, what is the figure to repair the field?
Sir,
Somebody has to know. You're not going to be able, you can't sit
can't-
there and tell me you don't know what it's going to cost. $1 million, $2 million, $1.5 million?
I'm going to reiterate what the chair just said. This is a matter of litigation at.
That's not my question. I understand the
So I
litigation.
guess I
But what
will
you're not
answer
saying to me is so what you're telling me is you're going into mediation, but you have no idea what this field is going to cost to fix. I find that very
We
hard to
did not
believe.
say that. We said that we have a lot of information beyond the cost, beyond everything, but we're not going to be communicating it tonight because we are in litigation and we're going to mediation. Do you think that we would go into mediation not having that information? Of course we have it. We're just not letting that out right now. How
Okay,
do you want us to let that information out and put our
So if you-
taxpayers at, Mr. Duran, let me just finish. Do you want us to put that information out and put our taxpayers at a disadvantage? Would you want
You're
that?
not putting anybody at a disadvantage if you say it's going to cost $1 million to fix it. What kind of a disadvantage are you going to be at? Because at some point, you're either going to pay the whole $1 million, you're going to pay $500,000. The construction company that
We're
did the
being,
field
our
might pay
council is telling
$500,000.
us that we cannot.
So there's got to be a number. And I don't
Okay.
think the number is going to jeopardize anybody's case here because both parties know what the number is going to be to fix the field. It doesn't make sense what you're saying.
Well, I'm only listening to the attorneys that we've hired, and that's what their advice is at this point in time. I'm sorry if you don't agree.
Well, I tend to disagree because I feel as though there is a number on the table and I think it should be shareable
It will be
to-
shareable after mediation.
so that people will understand where they're headed as far as like next year's budget goes. My second item, not good news. By the way, I want to congratulate Teacher of the Year. Good job. Is that statewide or just, that's statewide?
No.
Just Situate? Oh, okay, you got my vote. The second item, not a happy item, but it's occurred to me, and there's a police report about a principal being fired and an aide being fired for sexual activity in the principal's office and there were drugs involved. Now, if there were drugs involved, and the resignation came out today in an email, was he terminated on the spot? And drugs on school property is a felony. Why were they not charged to this point?
You're basing this on a police report that you have?
I'm aware of the police report.
I'll simply respond that I'm not aware of any police report. If you have a.
There is a police report
If you
about the incident.
If there's a police report, you should provide us with a copy of it.
Well, I'm sure you'll get a copy of it, but everybody knows what happened. My question
Again.
is, are they going to be charged?
You would have to ask.
Because it's a felony to have drugs on school property. We all know that. It's a drug-free zone.
You would have to ask the police department that question.
Sir, I would, as a member of the school committee, I would ask that if you're in possession of a police report that says there were drugs on school property, that you provide us with that report, and I'd be
It's not
happy.
my job to provide you with that report. You're gonna have to get it the way I got it.
So you have so let's be clear, you're telling me right now, through a public records request, you have a report.
Nope. I'm aware of the report. I haven't had a chance to apply for the public records request for the report.
I suggest you do so because there's no such report.
Well, I want to know about the drugs on the school property. And why were they charged as a felony? Because of drug-free zone.
I there's a lot of rumors going out there, but this is so far from what the reality is, Mr. Duran. I'm sorry, but you know, if there was an incident report, that may have happened through the school resource officer, but there were no drugs on the premise. And so that's what I'm saying. You got to be careful about what you're hearing. There is no report out there that there were drugs on the premise of any of our schools. I think that sometimes these rumors can spin out of control. But this is a personnel matter. And so we have to be extremely careful about how we speak to this. But I can assure you that there is no police report out there that indicates that there were drugs in any of our schools.
Okay, well, at least it's on the record that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. If you got something different, then let me know. Thank you, Mr. Duran.
Hi, Brendan Machowski, 294 Quaker Lane. So I have a couple different things. The first is I just wanted to let you guys know that for this month in Clerkbase, none of the hyperlinks were included, so the community can't see any of the extra documents.
Thank you, Brenda.
Now, one other thing. So starting last month, the employee updates section is no longer included in the superintendent's report. This is something that I always look for to stay up to date and know what's going on. I'm just wondering if it's gonna come back, or why it's not.
Brendan, I just noticed that was missing from the agenda, and I made myself a note to speak to Patty about it and get those back on there. And I don't know how it fell off.
For the employee updates or the
The employee update.
okay, because last month I actually emailed Patty asking for them and never got a response back. So I wasn't sure if it was something intentional that they weren't
Absolutely wasn't
on there.
intentional.
Okay, could you possibly include the past 2 months in next month's agenda?
We'll make sure that the school committee gets a complete listing of any and all employee updates.
Okay, thank you. And one last thing. So, when you were talking about how there used to be a board for the, what's it called? Like the Tidy to School, missing school, I can't think of the word
The
of it.
truancy.
Yes, truancy. So, in town, there still is the technically active juvenile hearing board. Is that the board that used to do truancy as well? You probably know Mr. Pendergast, but
Yeah, the juvenile hearing board is still in effect. That's a little bit different than the truancy court.
okay, it
The
is.
truancy court just has to do with the school attendance and tardiness. And the juvenile hearing board is basically, that's a non-criminal. It does
Okay.
not go in front of the court system. It goes in front of a panel of residents and a police officer who's present. And it's run through, I can't remember the program, but it's a juvenile program.
Okay.
And they admit to the judge, and once they admit to the judge, they come back in 2 months. They might have to do some community service and some other things, and then the paperwork's thrown away like it never happened.
Oh, yep. Okay. Thank you for explaining that better. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Is there anyone here in the auditorium that would like to make a comment or ask a question? How about anyone at home? Do we have anybody out there, Chris?
I don't believe so. I asked for it earlier and no one raised their hand since.
Okay, all right. So we're moving on to new business. We have a dedication of the room in the memory of Lily Zolli. So, does anybody, I think, yes, you're gonna come up and. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so after speaking with the teachers at school, they felt strongly that the library would be the best place for Mrs. Zarley, and in the coming years, it's going to be redone as well. So we're going to work on designing a plaque for her. In communication with Erica, she suggested a memory book. So we created a Google form, sent it out district-wide to family students, contacted the town. They sent it out on the listserv this week. And I also sent it to Mary Fogel to see if she can reach out to, some former colleagues and friends as well, because I know she touched many people, not just in the school system, but also in the town. So I am monitoring that. I've received some pictures, some memories. So we'll work on putting that together. Everybody has till the 18th of November to do that. So hopefully we can kind of wrap it all up before Christmas and do the plaque maybe in the new year for her. So.
I know her daughter just received that email through the town listserv. So, I mean, as of like yesterday.
Yep.
So I'm sure will be getting you pictures. She's extending that out to her family and friends. So.
Okay.
Let me know if you need anything else with that, but
And-
I've sent it off to my kids. I'm sure they all have stories.
Yeah.
Caitlin, I just also wanted just to remind you that media center is actually slated for a beautiful renovation. So when you're putting the plaque on, also know that it's probably
Yes.
going to be moved at some point. And so we're
Yes.
excited about that. And hopefully we can get that to those students as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And then,
thank
and then
you.
she'll have a shiny room.
She
with a
will.
shiny plaque.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in, Caitlin.
The next item on new business is the adoption of Alice. Actually, I'm going to table that tonight because the committee during executive session has asked for for additional information. And that is going to be brought forward to us at a future date. So if I don't have any announcements, do we have any announcements?
I have no announcements, but I forgot to ask, Lori, if you could have the new principals send us the newsletters.
The newsletters?
Yeah, I do keep up
Yeah.
on those.
I will do that.
Any other comments or announcements? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. I just want to make our committee notice the time.
Yes.
We're gonna take a vote before you start bragging.
All right, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.